right? I broke it, but now what do? He flies away. And he loses no health. I don't understand what I'm... Dude, is anyone... this. How do I beat this boss? Well, and the frame rate's so bad, I can barely control my character. I just want to know how to beat the boss. The game is terrible. I'm seriously... The further in I'm getting, the game is worse. It just gets freaking worse. Does anyone know how to beat this freaking stupid freaking boss so I don't have to waste time on it? But it really sucks that today I played all day podcast and this, and I have my lowest supported stream of the year. By far, this is the lowest supported stream I have done in 2025.
DarkSydePhil isn't the only person trying to say Donkey Kong Bonanza is too easy, but he is a very good example as to what the average person saying this is like. You know, he made this call early on in the game when the game was just getting started. Oh, it's too easy. Like, I'm too good for this Nintendo game. And then, you know, as the game progresses, we see over and over and over again that Phil is not capable of playing the game. He isn't capable of turf surfing. He isn't capable of handling the boss fights. He can't handle the elephant power-up, you know? Like, there's so much that Phil demonstrates over and over and over again during this playthrough that it does need to be said that the vast majority of the people who are critical towards Donkey Kong Bonanza are completely out of touch and have no idea what they're talking about. And this is a reoccurring problem when it comes to criticism of Nintendo games in general. We saw a lot of this with Super Mario Bros. Wonder and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom in 2023, but the Bonanza and Mario Kart World backlash, you know, the cope from these people trying to insist that these games are failures, that they're disappointing, that they're falling off, that, like, nobody's playing Mario Kart no more. You know, like, it is just a fantastic cope that really needs to be called out for what it is. And I do think that over the next year or so, this idea that these games are failures or disappointing is going to fall by the wayside as most people begin to understand how good these games actually are. These people, you know, YouTubers, whether it's Synthetic Man, Fratanga, or DarkSydePhil, all of whom are cut from the same cloth, by the way, all of these people, like, are going to be in this very unfortunate position where people are going to be looking for receipts whenever they run their mouth about Nintendo games. In DarkSydePhil's case, you know, he tried to come out and say that he was a huge fan of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, you know, when anybody who saw that playthrough knows perfectly well that he fumbled through that game as well and didn't enjoy it at all. You know, like, that's the reality of the situation, right? Like, the traditional method of downplaying Nintendo games, you know, pretending that you were a huge fan of the old stuff that they produced and then getting upset at, like, newer games, like, that isn't going to fly anymore. You know, more and more people are beginning to realize that a simple look at these people's play history will demonstrate that they don't know what they're talking about. They've put hardly any time into these games at all, that they've been complaining and whining their entire careers, and the entire thing just kind of collapses, you know? Like, DSP is getting called out for this, like, just because he's DSP, but we are seeing more and more that people are willing to defend these games against, like, other YouTubers who are doing the exact same thing that he's doing.
How do I beat this boss? You suck all the shit away. He goes into the brick. You break the brick. He flies away and it starts over. You can never hit him. Well, and the frame rate's so bad, I can barely control my character. I just want to know how to beat the boss. The game is terrible. I'm seriously, the further in I'm getting, the game is worse. It just gets fucking worse. Does anyone know how to beat this fucking stupid fucking boss so I don't have to waste time on it? I have no fucking idea what I just did. I literally just mashed buttons, and that's how I beat the boss. This game is fucking terrible. I literally just mashed buttons and beat the boss.
Trying to use the gameplay mechanics they taught me didn't work. I just mashed buttons and instantly beat it. The problem is, if we could have identified early on that the game was going to be really bad, then I wouldn't have played it as long as I did. But now we've invested 20 hours in, and no one's caring today. Like, can't you notice? Take a look at the stream. $29 of support. Nobody cares about this game. And
again, notice the transition. Like, oh, I can't beat this. It's too hard. Oh, help me, chat. And then he immediately tries and like pivots like, oh man, I beat it by mashing buttons. Like, Phil, you're an idiot. Like, you can't take this guy seriously, right? And not in any way, shape, or form. You know, Bananza is a fantastic game with a lot of cool mechanics, a lot of cool areas, a lot of cool things about it. But like DSP sitting there and being like, oh, I'm so bored. Oh, like it doesn't work. You know, I've seen too many people, you know, the game's actual target audience, really, really enjoying themselves with this. And someone like Phil just sitting there whining about it, you know, complaining about the game not playing itself. Like, it's not something that anybody really takes seriously or respects. You know, and when Phil tries to sit there and tries to tell people that, like, this is my lowest supported stream of the year, that proves that Donkey Kong Bonanza isn't that popular. It's so delusional and out of touch, because I do think this really needs to be said, especially because I still see people like using Twitch numbers to complain about Tears of the Kingdom, right? The Twitch audience doesn't dictate whether or not games are successful. You know, the simple fact of the matter is, Bonanza's already extraordinarily successful. You know, Mario Kart World is already extraordinarily successful. The Switch 2 is already extraordinarily successful. And like, the numbers you pull on your stream really have nothing to do with that success. Really do think that needs to be emphasized more, especially because you still see people try and like tell you that like Baldur's Gate 3 was more successful than The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It was not. Like, it's just a gigantic cope to try and downplay Nintendo. And that's basically what this is, you know? Like, the fact is, DSP told on himself here. You know, when he's complaining about numbers, when he's complaining about support, when he's complaining about how much money he's making, he's not complaining about the game. He's not complaining about Nintendo. He's not talking about Donkey Kong Bonanza. He is talking about his income. He is talking about his business. He is talking about his channel. He is talking about his analytics. He is not talking about the game itself. Because the Switch 2 did not bring in a ton of money for him, that means that the console is a failure and needs to be condemned. You know, that's DarkSydePhil's mindset when it comes to these games, and I would imagine is the same mindset of every other YouTuber and critic downplaying the Switch 2 right now, because there is no disputing at this point that the Nintendo Switch 2 is successful. There is no disputing the popularity and success of Mario Kart World. There is no disputing the success of Donkey Kong Bonanza. And yet, you still have a number of people like this, like DarkSydePhil, coming out and making these ludicrous claims every single day. And they absolutely need to be called out for what they are doing.